Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to Three Guys in a Flick. The good, the bad, and the gruesomely absurd.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Sorry, Jessica. This year, there will be no leftovers.
Three guys and a flick with Don, Ken, and John. Dive into the movies well after the dawn. From the good to the bad to the wildly absurd. They give a fuck about films. Their voices are heard.
Welcome back. You are listening to Three Guys in a Flick. This is where we review the good, the bad, and the absurd. Tonight's episode, Thanksgiving. In honor of our special Thanksgiving episode. Beware spoilers. Coming to you from the Black Friday sale at Wright Martin, Plymouth, Massachusetts, my name is Don. Oh, hey, John, go grab me one of those sweet waffle makers, would you?
Sure thing.
Oh, and where the fuck is the professor?
He said something about being right back.
Oh, okay. Tonight we are talking about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving comes to us because, well, we kind of have a tradition here when we do holiday films that sometimes we think outside the box. And so I thought, hey, since it's Thanksgiving, let's talk about the movie Thanksgiving, which in fact happens to be a horror film, which is right up our alley.
It's pretty much the slasher genre of a horror movie.
Sure. I would definitely classify this as a slasher film, for sure. For sure. Did you ever see Grindhouse?
I have not seen Grindhouse, but I have heard stories that in Grindhouse there was like 5 movie previews, and now they're going through, and or at least they have in the last few years, and making movies out of those mock previews. Well, I haven't seen Grindhouse yet because nobody has put it in the helmet.
Well, you know that Grindhouse is a double feature, right? So it's essentially 2 movies.
Is it?
Yeah. The first movie is Planet Terror, directed by one Robert Rodriguez, and the other is Death Proof, Quentin Tarantino.
Okay, and so in those movies, they showed mock previews for other movies, and then they turned those into real movies.
Yeah, they were trying to give you a 70s feel of what it was like to go watch a Grindhouse movie back in the 70s. And that's what it was. They would have these trailers in between the double features, which double features don't exist anymore. I mean, unless you're streaming, then you can double feature all night. But yeah, he had these 5 directors come up with these fake trailers. And out of these 5 trailers, 3 of them have been made into feature-length films, Thanksgiving being one of them.
The previews included Machete, Hobo with a Shotgun, which I think might have been Canada only. They're making Don't, and Werewolf Women of the SS.
Yeah, Rob Zombie did that one in the trailer, and Edgar Wright did Don't for his trailer. Eli Roth did the Thanksgiving trailer, and I'm sure he had this idea way before, but this movie was definitely inspired from the trailer as well, or at least to get it made.
Yeah,
right?
From what I've read, this was supposed to be a salute, like dedicated to the classic slashers movie.
Yeah, and I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
for a slasher movie that was made in 2023.
Yeah, and it's meant to kind of be a serious movie, but that you don't take too seriously. It was supposed to, with the 80s music and the kind of campy slasher character, costume, all that. It just, like I said, it harkens to the 80s slasher movie.
Right. Released on November 17th, 2023, Thanksgiving was directed by Eli Roth, screenplay by Jeff Rendell, story by Eli Roth, and it stars Patrick Dempsey, Addison Rae, Milo Meehan, Jalen Thomas Brooks, Neil Verlake, Rick Hoffman, Gina Gershon, and a bunch of other pilgrims.
How'd this movie do, Don?
This movie was made for $15 million and brought in $47 million.
Did you see this one in the theater?
I did not see this one in the theater. Did you?
No, I have not. In fact, just the other night was the first time I had seen it. I think I remember when it came out, and I hadn't seen Grindhouse, so I didn't know its origins. And I kept thinking, who the hell would make a slasher movie about Thanksgiving?
Well, here is your answer. And I remember seeing it come out and I immediately thought, oh, it's from the fucking trailer, right? And I wanted to see it, but I just never got around to it because I, like yourself, am a big fan of slasher films. So, yeah. So this is directed by Eli Roth. What do you know him from?
I know him, I believe, from some mostly TV. I don't know him a lot from movies. Where do we know him from?
Most recently, we know him from Inglourious Bastards.
Yes.
He was
the
bear Jew. But he is directed a lot of movies that we've heard of and probably a lot of movies that we've seen. He is well known for Cabin Fever.
Good movie. Well, okay movie.
Hostel Part 2, The Green Inferno, Knock Knock. Did you ever see Knock Knock? The one with Keanu Reeves?
I've not seen that one.
I was interested to check that out. And then he just most recently did Borderlands, that movie that looks like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, wasn't great.
Oh, did you watch it?
I watched it. It's okay. It's not great. It felt like it could be a lot more, but if you're a big fan of the video game, I'm sure you loved it.
Oh, yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so. I know him from Hostel. Hostel comes out in 2005, which is a year after Saw. And I think both of those films kind of are the birth of what has become known as torture porn. And I'm not a huge fan of it. Saw was decent. I liked the ending. It was a good twist. It was one of those movies where I went, oh. But then they made 14 more. And yeah, I don't know. I just wasn't a huge fan of it.
Well, one of the things I know that Eli Roth was going for, like even in this movie, and I'm sure he goes with Hostel and other movies, is not so much that you're glorified torture porn, as you talk about glorified killing people in just grotesque ways. It's the creative kills in that, something that you're not expecting that makes you go, oh shit, that's different. And kind of the shock value of it to put you into the kind of that feeling, that mood of anything could happen. Well, so it's not like you want to see someone just get torn apart, but it's the creative way it's done.
Well, okay, that's one argument. Another one would be that it wouldn't matter if it's a slasher film or a different type of horror film. Coming up with creative kills is something that's always in the minds of the storytellers. So I guess it really comes down to how much you want to see, how much you want to show. And, I get pushing the envelope, and a scene that can make me turn away and go, oh shit, quick and good, I'll buy it. I'll accept it. But a scene that makes me go, oh shit, and then I have to watch it and keep watching it, it's kind of a turnoff. Yeah. So, I mean, there are different levels of gore and what I think is enjoyable and what isn't.
The problem with like a lot of slasher movies, especially today, is a lot of directors feel like they need to one up either what they've done in the past or what other people have done in the past. So like back when Hostel came out, everyone was like, oh my God, look what they're doing. And, and Saw as well, look what they're doing. That almost feels tame to what some of the stuff we're seeing today, like with From the Terrifier.
Oh yeah. And even Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I really appreciated the gore in Thanksgiving because it was quick. We got the point and we didn't have to linger on it. Whereas movies like The Terrifier, or fuck it, let's just call it The Terrifier, because it's unlike anything I've ever seen. They relish on it and they hold on it and they make you watch it. And to me, that's just too much.
Yeah, well, I'm on the message boards for like movies like The Terrifier, and people literally on there are excited to see, what brutal thing he can come up with next. I think his name is Damon Leone. They're just excited to see what, they expect the brutality from him next, and how can he top what he did last. And he's even said in interviews, he feels like every movie, every kill, he has to one up what he's done before.
Well, I just feel bad for him then because it's hard to watch. In my opinion, I think it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
So
for me, it doesn't come down to the actual kills, but the quality of the character created. If it's an iconic character, I'm always out on the lookout for the next iconic slasher that we'll be talking about for generations. Well, let's talk about who Eli created for this movie, his John Carver character, or as he's been named, the Carver.
Okay, yeah.
Well, where does he fit in the echelon of memorable, iconic slashers to you?
I don't think he's iconic in any stretch of the imagination. I think if we were doing a ranking, he would fall, let's take 20 slashers. Okay, can we name 20 slashers, you think?
I can name at least 10.
Okay, so let's take 10.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if he would be in that top 10.
No, he wouldn't be in my top 10 or even my top 5, any of that. I kind of felt like this movie was possibly an origin movie for him and that they could have built him up. The moment that he burned that mask later on in the movie and picked it up and looked at it and half of it was burned, kind of foreshadowing what happens to him in the end of the movie, I thought, is this kind of going to make him iconic? Is that going to be the iconic mask? But then later on, you see him kind of throw that mask away. And I was like, what is he doing? That was the start of developing this character. For most of the movie, he wasn't frightening at all. I didn't think he was scary. I just thought he was a guy in a goofy outfit.
Yeah. And he continued to be. And I think he kind of falls in line with the slashers more of on the human element.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the Ghostface.
That's where I was going with him.
Yeah. And he gave me Michael Myers feel, but I think I chalk that up to only because it's a holiday movie. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's okay for a slasher.
Yeah. For me, you're absolutely on the right track with saying he's a lot like a Ghostface in that he's a person who's in a costume, who's pretending to be a good guy, but also being a bad guy. He kind of has a dual personality in that he's playing two characters at the same time. When you get Michael Myers and you get Jason or you get Freddy or any of them, they are that one character. Michael Myers doesn't take off the mask unless he's just going to show his grotesque face. He can't go and hide and pretend to be a good guy. Same with Jason. That's who they are. Freddy is always Freddy. So that's why this, Ghostface is always kind of, I thought they're good movies, but I never found the character as iconic as some of the big stars.
Okay. Well, then I think that could possibly be where you and I differ in a lot of things, because to me, a slasher is a slasher.
Yeah.
If the characters can be different from one another, fucking awesome. It doesn't matter how or what the differences are. At the end of the day, they're still slashers.
Yeah.
So do you have a top 5 slashers?
I do have a top 5 slashers. And I can tell you part of my criteria is they have to go above what you'd expect a normal human being capable of. So do you have a top 5?
I do.
Do you want to share your top 5?
Sure.
And kind of defend some of your picks? Let's start with number 5. Who would you
Well, no, let's start with number 1, because I think the listeners and the whole world knows who our number 1 is.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's Freddy, right?
Ghostface. I'm kidding. Yeah, it's Freddy.
Both Wes Craven.
Yes.
So we couldn't have been too wrong. No, Freddy, hands down. We grew up with him. We love him. We talk about Freddy ad nauseum. Listeners, you get it. It's Freddy. All right. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 would be Jason Voorhees.
Interesting.
Only
Why?
because, I don't know. I know Michael Myers came before him, but Jason's mask has always been so iconic to me.
We're going to forego origin dates.
Okay.
And this is just who your favorites are. So you like Jason because of his mask.
I like the iconic mask, the iconic character. I always found him more intimidating than Michael Myers.
Interesting.
Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Michael Myers.
And why?
Because he's just a force of nature.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no stopping him. And I like Jason, and he's definitely on this list. Don't get me wrong, but I put Michael above Jason because to me, his presence and his choice of scenery to kill, neighborhoods and the town of Haddonfield, I think I like that better than Camp Crystal Lake.
I will say Jamie Lee Curtis is easily number 1 or 2 on my last girl list.
Yeah, her
Final girl.
Yeah, her and Nancy are 1 and 2 for me.
That's where I would
followed closely by Ripley.
One of the reasons why I didn't put Michael on my top 5, I'll just reveal that now, is mainly because I think the sequels. And that's because he ended up being just a human and just having the same weaknesses as humans, especially if you watch the final movies. I don't know if you've seen all of them. They just turned him into an old man who was easily beatable at the end. Just the whole town gets together and kind of destroys him. And to me, it just made him feel weak at the end.
Yeah, I will agree with you that Halloween Ends, the most recent one, very disappointing. And I had a lot of high hopes because David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, they do some really good TV shows. They're really good producers, directors / talent. And so I really dug the 2018 Halloween. Halloween Kills was fine. It was really the Halloween 2 of the series. And I really expected a lot from that third one, and that they really just kind of shit the bed. But overall, as a slasher, I still pick Michael as my number 2.
Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Jason Voorhees.
Jason Voorhees. Why is that?
Because he is, again, unstoppable. He is something that is very frightening when you're in the woods. And a lot of his kills are pretty creative. And he's just one of those iconic characters that at any given moment, you could turn around and he would be right there.
For my number 3, I'm picking Art the Clown.
Of course you are.
The reason being is that I like that finally at least I feel like we have a new contender for becoming an iconic horror classic icon. Yes, clowns have been done, but he kind of has that mime thing going. We don't see a lot of, it's that uniqueness of being a mime type character who just oozes, this creepiness factor. He also just the creativity of his brutality, that it's always kind of something different. And really what the director is going for is not so much recreating what other people have done, but saluting what other people. He dedicates a lot of these kills to, this is where I got the idea from. I wanted to make a call out to a Jason kill, or I wanted to make a call out to Michael kill, because they're what inspired me to create this character. I love the dark sense of humor in it, that even though this is brutal and crazy, the things he's doing, there's a weird sense of makes you want to laugh, but it's wrong to laugh. So it's just that can bring that out in you. And it's got an interesting developing storyline. If you watch in the art series, if you watch the original short movies and everything, he's just a serial killer. He's just a guy who's going around killing people up until like the first movie where he offs himself. And then he becomes something supernatural afterwards. And the director has purposely made it so that we don't fully know how and why, but every time a movie comes out or every time another thing comes out, we're finding out a little bit more of how he became supernatural, why he is supernatural, and who his final girl really is. His final girl is really tied strongly into his origin, into his story, and is almost his antithesis. It's interesting how they're building on it, and I'm looking forward to where they go with that character.
Yeah, well, there you go. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Chucky. And I know a lot of people think Chucky is hokey and kind of corny, but I like his one-liners. For me, a good iconic character, besides art, has to have these classic one-liners that make you laugh every time you hear them, or snarky. And I always thought, even in the TV series, which I liked the Chucky TV series, he always had those little funny remarks and that snide character, and it just keeps going. And that's kind of the funny part of it.
Yeah.
Who's yours?
Mine is Ghostface.
Why is that?
Because he is an idea. He's like Batman, right? Multiple people can be Ghostface, but the reasons for their killings I always found on the human side is it's pretty much all just revenge, right?
Some of it's revenge, and then isn't some of it they want to become famous?
Yeah, that's in the later ones. But I think that the whole playing on the phone idea and playing on its own past and recognizing that it exists, I think is a lot of fun for me.
So that brings us to our number 5. Who'd you pick?
Leatherface.
Why?
Because he's a fucking cannibal. And the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the first time I saw it, is one of those movies that stays with you, like we've talked about. Not so much scary now, but because it looked like such a snuff film and it was so raw, and Leatherface is just fucking crazy, right?
He's brutal.
He's inspired by Ed Gein, who actually was a serial killer. So yeah, Leatherface definitely is my number 5.
You want to know who my number 5 is?
Yes. Who's your number 5?
You want to guess? I'll give you one guess.
I only get one.
Yeah.
I'm going to say it is, you already, okay. No. Okay. Let me recap. Freddy's your number 1.
Yep.
Jason's your number 2.
Yep.
Art's your number 3. Chucky's your number 4.
Yep. And who's my number 5?
Pinhead?
Pinhead is my number 5. Good call.
Bam. Nailed it.
Now, again, for me, it's the crazy above human storylines that I really like, and just the fact that they can create like a mythos around a character. I love the idea that the line from Hellraiser, demon to some, angel to others, that this character, while just being almost unstoppable, still gets beat, and he almost seems like he thinks he's doing a good thing, and that he's helping people, in that he's hurting them. He's bringing them pleasure through pain, and it's just such a crazy that, the whole Clive Barker came up with this in his head to create this character. And these movies, the movies got progressively worse. They got horrible down the road, but just the original Pinhead character, it just still seems iconic to me.
Well, that goes for any horror movie franchise. They just get worse.
Mm-hmm.
They might do okay in the beginning, the first couple of them, first 3 or 4 of them, but then ultimately they all get worse. So there's that. And hey, man, you're preaching to the choir. Pinhead's my number 6.
It's number 6, yeah.
What are the all-time slasher films? Box office wise.
I went through and ran a report on the top slashers of all time based off of box office earnings, number of sequels, and as well as just general popularity.
You have the top 10 or top 5?
I have the top 10.
All right, start at the bottom.
Number 10, Art the Clown. Number 9, someone neither one of us mentioned, Candyman. I always felt that one, I don't know, it rubbed me the wrong way. It had a weird vibe, like love story to it. I never got really into Candyman, but that one in 2021, the reboot grossed over $77 million worldwide.
I heard it was pretty good. I want to check it out. Jordan Peele produced it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, definitely.
Pinhead is number 8. With the Hellraiser series, there's been 10 movies, a lot of them straight to video, straight to streaming. Number 7, Jigsaw, the Saw series. That one has had 10 films. It's hard to believe Jigsaw's had 10 films already.
No, it's not. You blink and there's another fucking Saw movie.
That's probably true. Followed by number 6 is Chucky with the Child's Play series. There's been 8 Chucky films, not including the TV series. It's grossed over $305 million with its series. Number 5, Leatherface, which has grossed approximately $459 million adjusted for inflation. It's had 9 movies. I did not realize Leatherface has had 9 movies.
There was a trilogy to begin with.
Number 4, Ghostface with the Scream series. There's been 6 of those movies, and the franchise has grossed over $913 million worldwide. Number 3, Freddy Krueger, with grossing approximately $793 million adjusted for inflation, but there has been 9 films including crossovers. Number 2, Jason Voorhees at $908 million adjusted for inflation, and there has been 12 films including crossovers. Number 1, Michael Myers, the Halloween series. He's had 13 films including sequels and reboots.
Yeah.
Any surprises on that list?
No, not really. Not if we're going by the number of movies, box office, and I mean those are hard facts, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how the data nets out. But as far as favorites, I mean it all comes down to the person and who you grew up with and which slasher that you love.
I'm going to quiz you here. I also further broke down this top 10 list. I wanted to see who was the top slasher by decade. So in 1950, who was the top slasher?
It's going to be the Creature from the Black Lagoon.
You are correct. And up till now, I did not know his name is the Gill Man.
Oh, there you go. Have you ever seen it?
I have not seen it, but he had 2 sequels.
You should check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen pictures of it and I've seen little clips. Never watched it all the way through, but it is definitely interesting. 1960, who was the top slasher?
The 60s, I'm going to go ahead and say Probably Norman Bates.
Norman Bates from Psycho, correct. And a lot of people say he was the mother of psychological horror and stalking. He's what really inspired stalking in these movies. 1970, who was the top slasher?
I think there was only one. It was Michael Myers.
You are correct. Michael Myers. 1980, who is the top one?
So here's where it kind of gets cloudy for me because I want it to be Freddy, but it's not. It's Jason because they had more movies.
Yeah, Jason was more popular, brought in more money than Freddy. 1990.
Again, I think there's only one, and it's Ghostface.
Ghostface is correct. You're doing great.
Yeah.
2000s.
Just going up the line here. Jigsaw?
Jigsaw, correct. Because I think the Saw movies was kind of the king of slasher movies in the 2000s.
Yeah.
The 2010s.
Michael Myers again?
No.
Who?
Annabelle from the Conjuring universe.
Well, see, anything after 2010, I don't know if there has been an iconic slasher out there, so I don't know if I'll get any of these. So if they say it's Annabelle, then so it's Annabelle.
Well, what they're saying is that we saw a resurgence of supernatural slashers and kind of that idea of reality TV, and that's what made Annabelle number one in the 2010s.
Oh, there you go.
2020s.
Pennywise?
You'd think, but they're saying Art the Clown.
Well, you love that.
Where does the Carver fall on this list?
I don't know if clearly he didn't fall on it. If on our list, I think we both said he was below our top 10.
Yeah.
So
I do know that due to the popularity of this movie, that this movie did well, they already have greenlighted a sequel for it. So we're going to see the Carver again.
All right. Well, there you go.
Dinner is served.
On Thanksgiving in Plymouth, Massachusetts, chaos erupts at the local Wright Mart during a Black Friday sale. Jessica Wright, daughter of the store owner Thomas, sneaks her friends Gabby, Bobby, Evan, Scuba, and Yulia inside early, angering the waiting crowd. The mob stampedes, killing Amanda Collins, the wife of employee Mitch, a security guard, and a customer. Bobby suffers a serious arm injury and later moves away. A year later, as Wright Mart prepares for another Black Friday, Bobby returns to Plymouth and a waitress named Lizzie, linked to the prior year's riot, is killed by someone in a John Carver mask. Authorities suspect that those involved in the Wright Mart chaos are being systematically targeted. The masked assailant named John Carver taunts Jessica and her friends with grisly social media posts. Jessica provides the sheriff, Eric Newland, with security footage from the Wright Mart riot, but the killings escalate. Carver murders students Lonnie and Amy, security guard Manny, and disembowels Julia in her own home, despite Jessica and Scuba's attempts to save her. So this movie opens up and we're introduced to some characters. It's Thanksgiving. And at first we meet Patrick Dempsey, Gina Gerson, Mitch, the employee who has to go to work, and they're doing Thanksgiving. And we find out that Patrick Dempsey's moving on. I can't remember if it was from a divorce or a death, but he's moving on. Everyone's kind of up in arms about Wright Mart, which is supposed to be like Walmart, I guess, is open Thursday night for Black Friday.
Yeah, it's open on Thanksgiving, that they're going to start their Black Friday special or sale on Thanksgiving, which is interesting because this is based off, part is based off a true story.
Oh, absolutely. I remember all the reports. You remember watching that on the news?
Like a Kmart or something like that?
It was a fucking Walmart.
Or was it a Walmart?
Yeah.
People stampeded and people got trampled and killed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I'm sure where they got the idea from.
Oh, of course. And then we cut to Jessica, who's going to be our final girl, and her family.
She's the daughter of the guy that owns Wright Mart.
Right. And she's kind of like, why the fuck are we open? Blah, blah, blah. But anyways, her and her friends go out and they're going to go see a movie or whatever.
Well, one thing I'm going to stop you there. In the beginning with these kind of shots, we're already supposed to start guessing who's going to end up being the killer. And so they're giving us reasons to suspect certain people. Like right away, we see with Jessica, she's got kind of an evil stepmom vibe of this mom who's joining the family, about to get married to her father. And right away, they're making it look like maybe she's got some motives. Maybe she's got some issues. You know, Mitch having to go to work on Thanksgiving. Who knows? Maybe he's going to snap. We don't know. But I feel like they're already trying to give us those vibes early on.
Possibly. I took it as like any good slasher movie, we have to get introduced to our characters. And if we don't like our characters from the get-go, then we're not gonna really root for them, right? This movie does a fine job with establishing who our characters are and their roles that they're about to play. What I didn't realize was, because of this stampede, that's going to trigger the entire film to come. This really is a cold open, and I didn't see that coming.
One of the vibes I got from the stampede and all that, and the friends getting snuck in and everything, was, I know what you did last summer.
Oh, yeah.
I almost felt like, okay, so something happens one year, the killer now holds a grudge, and he's going to go after those people the next year.
Yeah. It's funny. The guy with the hook, the fisherman, didn't make any lists.
Yeah.
But you're right. And so we cut to Right Mart, and we have that barricade of people, and we are immediately introduced to over-the-top consumer assholes who just want to get in. And we know as audience, something's going to happen at some point to these people.
I did like how, first of all, we had the asshole people on the outside. We had the guards who were freaking out, the security people. And inside, you have the employees who are like, oh, crap, they're about to come in.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of shitting their pants.
It's a calm before the storm.
Yeah. And you knew that gate was going to break, which is funny because I kept looking at the gate that was holding them back. All they had to do was lift it up and unhook it.
Yeah.
It was one of those just easy lift up and pull up.
Oh, yeah. One of those little barriers.
You didn't have to push it down or anything. You just lift it up, move it, and just go right through. But you had the people, you could tell. First of all, you could tell right away that one guy was going to antagonize everybody and get them going. He was going to start it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And they do that deliberately. And so we have Jessica and her friends. They're going to a movie, but of course, movie convenience, someone needs a new phone. And so they go to Right Mart, and because Jessica's dad is the manager, she sneaks them in. And I knew this was coming a mile away, that someone was going to see them from the outside, and that was going to incite the riot. And it does. And
well, it didn't help that her friend sat in the front door window and teased the people outside.
Right, because he got in a fight with the dude who's in the front of the barrier. So, of course. So the angry mob breaks down the barrier, they run, and the store manager, Mitch, he says, shut the doors, lock it, because he knows what's going to happen. He's got to try and keep them out for a second.
Well, you also have that one security guard that was outside who said, fuck this, and just ran away.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's that guy.
So there's already one guy we know, okay, well, he's going to get offed.
Yeah.
He's going to be a target.
Maybe. And so naturally, they rushed the door, and we knew it was going to break. And when it did break, it squashes the other security guard, which we knew. But a moment that I went, oh, shit, was when the one guy was trying to get into the door and cuts his own neck.
Oh, yeah. I thought, damn, there's a guy. And I thought, for a second, I thought maybe he could be the killer.
Oh, no, I wasn't playing that game quite yet. I was enjoying the opening. And this guy walks around bleeding from the neck trying to get his waffle maker.
Yeah, he's still trying. Yeah. And did you like how he ends up dying like on a pallet or something, and the woman just walks up and takes the waffle maker. Yeah. Takes it from him. My first thought when the doors started cracking and breaking, why the hell everyone just didn't run to the back of the store?
Yeah, why didn't they run?
I see that crowd coming. I would have gotten the hell away from those doors.
What do I say what do I say is a standard trope in every horror movie?
Play stupid games?
Well, kind of. It's bad decisions.
Yes.
There's always bad decisions. And as the mob's running in, one of Jessica's friends, Evan, gets on the checkout counter and starts filming everything.
Yeah.
Because it's today's day and age and you get to have content, right? And so chaos is ensuing. Everything's going crazy. And we get kind of a shocking death here. Gina Gerson gets
knocked over. And
then 2 shopping carts hit her in the head, but her hair gets caught in the wheel and it scalps her.
That I did not expect it, but I thought, okay, well, maybe they're creating a mutilated look of a killer, and that's why I suspected her. She was my number one suspect. My biggest thought of what the fuck's going on here is when everything started happening and you could see these people rushing the door and all that, wouldn't you as a husband see your wife up front and say, get to the back of the store? Wouldn't he have gone immediately and said, screw this, and gone to help his wife? Instead, he focused more on the crowd. And I thought that was I don't know, like you said, bad choices, bad decisions.
There you go.
But yeah, the fact that she got dragged and the people didn't seem to care. They
didn't notice her.
Yeah.
They didn't even see her. They didn't notice her.
It's all about a fucking waffle maker.
That's right. That was the point. It was the consumerism that it drives people mad. And like you said, based on real events, this shit actually happened. Maybe not the deaths, but this.
People were stomped to death. And there was, in one case of a Black Friday, I believe, as people were rushing in and breaking down the doors, people were suffocated against the doors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my point was no one was scalped.
Mm-hmm.
So
we also do, during these scenes of this chaos, they occasionally switch to the overhead cameras. You can see the security cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, again, going to my whole thing with foreshadowing, I thought, okay, this is what the killer's going to use to target his victims, is that security cam footage and the footage that the friend is taking up on the register stand.
And so, I mean, everything's happening, and then Patrick Dempsey's sheriff character notices Gina Gershon, and, he has to bring it to an end, and so he shoots his gun, and that's when we get the title card, Thanksgiving. This whole opening bit reminded me a little bit of Scream, where we have a beginning, middle, and end of a story before our actual movie. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was a nice little nod, if it was. And now we are 1 year later.
Yes, 1 year later, and we find out that Jessica's dad is going to do another Black Friday sale and open on Thanksgiving.
And people are like, what the fuck? But no, he is going to do it at the behest of his new bride.
Mm-hmm.
So really, it's Jessica's stepmom who is encouraging this behavior.
Yeah. And we know that Mitch has now become an ex-employee and protesting the fact that they're opening it up.
Right. And we forgot to mention that Jessica's boyfriend, Bobby, a soon-to-be very famous pitcher, gets injured, which I saw coming a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
And then he leaves town.
His injury, though, was kind of I would say a smaller oh fuck moment. Looked pretty brutal with someone stepping on his wrist. And I
don't know why it has to be a smaller oh fuck moment. It was an oh fuck moment. Yeah. I said oh fuck.
Big oh fuck moments are ones I don't see coming.
And so now, after it's a year later and people are up in arms, we kind of get to the start of the story, really, because this is going to be our first kill. And it turns out that the lady who was in the front of the line the year before is a waitress at the diner, and we kind of see the town and how we've progressed and moved on from a year ago. We get Patrick Dempsey has a new deputy, and life is just kind of going on.
They also, here again, they added a lot of red herrings throughout this movie. The way that the new deputy comes in, he's all grumpy and he's got kind of a dark past that they don't really talk about. I almost felt like they were trying to hint that maybe he was the killer.
He was on my list for about 0.25 seconds.
Yeah.
Because then I thought, no, it was way too obvious. And I was right in that instance.
The other thing is that we're seeing that nobody is taking like the blame for what happened. Even the waitress is still holding a grudge against the kids. And when she says, you just have to wait your turn, like you didn't do a year ago.
Oh, right.
That whole thing of whatever she said to them, of just being snarky, and they were like, ooh.
Yeah. Yep. And so later that night, the waitress gets a visit from John Carver.
Well, we also find out that Bobby, after his accident, has now disappeared. He fled town and nobody has seen him and totally ghosted Jessica.
Right. And so what did you think of the first kill?
I thought it was okay. It was pretty brutal in the way that she got stuck to the frozen freezer thing and kind of ripped her face. But there were a lot of little things that bugged me about this. She couldn't do facial recognition on her phone. You can still type in your 4-digit password.
She couldn't. Her fingers weren't recognizing it because of the blood. They specifically showed us that.
I thought that was just from the camera that she couldn't get in.
She was trying to do both.
That, and I don't know if you noticed, but in one scene while she was trying to get the phone to work, there was a landline phone just like 2 feet from her.
Oh, well, who uses a landline phone anymore?
Exactly, I guess.
So I really liked this death. I thought this was ingenious, and this was an oh fuck moment for me, that's for sure.
I didn't see her getting sliced in half.
Oh my God, that was so good. She gets sliced in half from a dumpster.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking original.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I don't know if a dumpster, it'd have to be a metal door with a sharp edge, because most dumpster doors are metal, but I don't think they have a sharp edge like that.
Yeah, I thought something would have had to come down on that top to really slice her in half.
But either way, it was good because what the killer does with her lower half is puts it up on the star on
Next to the sign that says 50% off.
yeah.
And I like that. But one of my first questions to Julie was, what happened to the other half?
Yeah, so did I. And then they show us them looking in the dumpster and I don't see it or they're not like noticing it. So yeah, what did happen? And we'll find out soon enough.
Call back later.
Yeah. And then
We find out that the kids, basically I'm going to call them kids, are getting tagged in social media by the possible killer.
and we see this table that's set up for a Thanksgiving dinner and it has name tags and all of their name tags are there. And now that you say it, this actually does remind me of I Know What You Did Last Summer because the victims are already thought out.
Yeah. And the killer is taunting them.
Yeah. Kind of like Scream too, in a way, in a way. And during this whole time, Jessica has a new boyfriend, Ryan.
Yeah, the guy that was in the beginning that was pining for her.
Right. And he's kind of made out to be a dick. And Bobby comes back and all of a sudden, everybody's getting called into the sheriff's office for information. And so they give the sheriff the information and we're led to believe all the way along that Patrick Dempsey is the good guy.
We're led to believe not only the good guy, but he's the hero of the story.
Exactly. And I bought it.
And
I really did.
At first, to me, I felt a little bit of Dewey vibes from him.
Oh, a little bit. You expected that little tune to play. It reminded me a lot of Scream. The colors, the color palette and the town setting.
Eli Roth has said that was on purpose. He wanted people to see a lot of different, classic slasher movies in this movie because this was his salute to them.
Right. The town is kind of like, what the fuck's going on? And
don't we go to the security guard next who's packing to get the fuck out of there?
I thought so.
Yeah, because I think he's the next one to get it. And this is where I didn't realize this, but this is where Eli Roth put in his trademark thing. Have you ever heard of what he does in, I guess, movies?
Which is?
There's always a cat watching someone get killed.
Oh, interesting.
That's one of his director trademarks.
Oh.
And he's even said of all the actors, the cat was probably the best actor because it kept on its cues. It never fucked up. He even gave it a nickname of Leonardo DiCaprio.
Cute. Very cute. What'd you think of this death?
Expected, I think.
Kind of by the numbers.
Yeah.
The security guard who ran away is packing to get out of town because it's also shown to us that the killer is taking notes and doing his research and making his plan because we see his evil lair and we get the posters of the people and blah, blah, blah. And with the security guard, he figures it out. He knows that something's going on and not necessarily that someone's coming after him, but the area is dangerous and he decides to get the fuck out.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out with him because when he ran away in the beginning, I'm guessing that we were supposed to just assume he's a coward.
Yeah.
And so something bad happens, he gets the fuck out. After one death, I wouldn't assume he knew he was targeted unless we don't know this, but the killer could have taunted him as well.
Now,
Sent him a message.
I don't think they need to go into that because if they're not going to show us, then why do it?
Yeah.
I took it as the town's going to shit. I'm going to get out while I can because that's what I would have done. If someone gets cut in half in my town and it's the waitress that I know from the diner and her bottom half gets publicly displayed, I'm getting the fuck out.
You're having Thanksgiving in Hawaii.
Yes, I am. And so he's getting ready and his Uber's going to pick him up.
He's already sitting outside the Uber.
Yes, he is. And the whole bit, it's kind of a horror movie trope. He puts the passport down, the camera turns away, we turn back, the passport's gone. We know someone's in the apartment. It's just a matter of time. And like we said, I think that this death was kind of by the numbers, fairly original. A good decapitation is always fun to watch.
For me, what was not by the numbers, and I actually laughed about it, I thought was one of the funniest things of the movie, is that the killer took a sec to feed the cat.
Oh my gosh. I figured you would like that.
I just thought that was so unusual for a slasher movie that, okay, so now we got a killer with feelings who likes cats.
You know what it reminded me of? And this is going to make you so happy. It reminded me of when Art kills the family in the third one, and then stops and has milk and cookies.
Milk and cookies, yeah.
So it's same along the same lines.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we know that there's a killer on the loose.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next two to get it are Lonnie and Amy, and they are at school or at rehearsal for the big parade, because we forgot to mention that there's a big parade in this town that everyone has been wanting them to cancel, but they haven't so far. And, you know, this is your typical teen killing for a slasher film. The two are going to go have some sexy time.
Well, Lonnie, the guy, he was working in a gym or something. I'm guessing he must have graduated. Now he's in charge of getting the players in shape. And was she a cheerleader or something?
Yeah, probably. She was wearing a cheerleader outfit.
Yeah, and so then she leads him for sexy time, and his kill was super quick.
Yeah, and I appreciated it because it was fucking brutal. I mean, getting your head snapped all the way around, but it was quick and easy, and we didn't need any more.
This was another one of those that I felt was almost a little bit supernatural, or the theory that maybe the sequel is going to say there's multiple killers. How did he get from snapping the guy's neck to under that trampoline so fast?
He's a quick killer, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, what'd you think of the trampoline death?
That was pretty brutal to me, because what are you going to do if you're up in the air bouncing and look down to see, you know, knives sticking up?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty inventive. I thought it could have gone way worse.
Mm-hmm.
And had it probably been a different franchise, it might have. But I appreciated that it just got her in the foot, and then she falls on her back and it goes right through her stomach. What I didn't realize, and they'll tell us later, is she doesn't die. So
Is she the one that ends up in the refrigerator?
she's the one that's in the fridge.
Okay, because I didn't know if that was her or someone else, but yeah, you're probably right.
Because she's the cheerleader. She was in
Yeah.
the cheerleader outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets stored for later.
She's leftovers.
Yes. And then at the same time, the cops come to school and we get a chase sequence like we normally would.
The Jessica chase scene in this scene screamed to me.
Oh, yes.
In that, how many times had Sydney been chased by the killer through a school or anywhere else, and then finally gets out and the killer's disappearing and nobody's quite sure if she's just crazy or if she was really being chased?
Yeah, no, I saw the parallels very much so. This movie, because it's set in high school, and I think any slasher movie since Scream
Mhm.
that's set in high school will always remind me of Scream. And that's just a testament to Wes Craven.
I did think it was clever that when the killer takes the first couple, her friends, and takes them away and then uses the phone to draw her in. Again, they've done that in every movie, but that's a clever little touch of using a phone to draw someone in and then having it ring, and then you turn around and there's him with an axe swinging at her.
Yeah.
The thing that bothered me about this is that in the end, it was the killer trying to gather everybody around the table. He was keeping certain people alive. Then why did he swing an axe and try to kill her?
Because maybe he was just going to kill her, get it over with.
Get it over with and just focus on the father and the evil stepmom?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I was
Maybe,
wondering
because you're right. He goes to a lot of effort to subdue Evan and the other girl by tranquilizing him. And then you're right. He starts swinging that axe, probably would have decapitated Jessica.
One thing that bothered me about this killer and why, if it was an official vote, I would keep him off a list of top slashers is I don't appreciate a slasher who uses a tranquilizer dart gun. It just seems easy. It just seems not earned. You just shoot him with a tranquilizer dart. You know, when Art in his movies uses a gun to shoot people, to me it's a cop-out. It's one of the things I hate. I don't like a serial slasher who uses a gun in any fashion.
Oh, I think that any killer that uses a tranquilizer is the most deadly.
You think so?
Because he's going to take his time. And there's
Yeah.
nothing more frightening.
I don't know. It just, to me...
And what's the difference between a tranquilizer and covering their face with chloroform?
I guess that's true.
I mean,
Chloroform.
effort, obviously, pulling a trigger versus physically doing it. I get that. But the point is, they're subduing them so that they can have their way with them later.
Maybe it's shock value to me. When someone comes around and puts that chloroform in their face, to me, that's more shocking than just, hey, here's a gun. I'm going to shoot
but
you with
whatever.
tranquilizer dart.
It's the same outcome.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it.
Okay.
So there you go. There you go. And so now with everything being fucking crazy, one of the kids, Ulia, her dad comes. Clearly he's Russian.
I thought it was Russian mafia or something.
Yeah, so did I. The black Mercedes.
But before that, what'd you think of, we're chasing Jessica through the school and she goes into that beautician classroom and hides amongst the heads.
It reminded me of E.T.
Did it?
When E.T. goes into the closet, when the mom's looking through the stuffed animals. Pretty smart. And she gets out of it.
Yeah.
And she escapes, which, I mean, she's our final girl. And no, I thought the scene was pretty tense and it was fine for a horror film. I didn't mind it.
I felt like this was supposed to tell us she's the cleverest of all the friends, and she thinks on her feet and has the best chance to make it through.
The survivalist, if you will.
She has that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Ulia's dad comes to pick her up, takes her home. Apparently she's going to Florida. And Scuba, one of the guys, and Jessica, now the only two left.
Yeah, Scuba Diver, I think was his last name.
No, that's right. And well, his first name was what?
I can't remember what his first name is, but his last name,
Claude or something like that, or Glenn.
his last name was Diver, so they called him Scuba.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
And clearly the killer is at Ulia's house. He tranquilizes the dad and the security officer
Security
that's
guards,
there.
yeah.
What did you think of her kill?
I thought it was okay. First of all, how did that power saw start up? Did he turn it on?
Yeah, Carver hit the power button and pushed her.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because at first she gets her fingers cut off.
Not first.
I thought she got her fingers cut off
She
and then
does.
fell on top of it.
She does, but first she's on the phone, remember? And she's talking to Scuba via video chat.
Yes.
And Carver comes up behind her and he takes the corn,
Oh, yes.
the things you put at the end of the corn on the cob, and shoves them in her ears.
The problem with that scene is I have those exact corn holders. And Julie makes fun of me. She has for years that whenever I have corn, I want my corn holders. I want my corn holders in the corn. And now I feel like I can't use them.
Well, that's how I am with mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Why mashed potatoes?
Because in the second Terrifier, when he blows the mom's face off with a double barrel shotgun and then sits her at the fucking table and then force feeds a no face skull mashed potatoes, the mashed potatoes turn red. And yeah, no more mashed potatoes for me.
No more mashed potatoes for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, those corn holders, that ruined my corn. I have to go out and now get a whole new set of corn holders, one that doesn't have the spikes in them.
What if we get you ones with Art the Clown on it? Would that be better?
Probably not.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. You say that now. And so Scuba and Jessica actually get there, and you think that maybe, just maybe, they can save Ulia, but you know, and I know, and the slasher movie community knows, Lulia's not getting out of this alive.
This was one of the first times that I recall seeing a slasher hold someone at gunpoint in front of other people. I can't think of off the top of my head where like the intended victims were that close to the slasher while he held a hostage.
Yeah, no, nothing comes to mind either. But it just goes to show you, I mean, this guy's brazen, right?
Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, he basically, like you said, turned on the power saw, pushes Ulia forward, and she falls on top of the power saw.
Cuts her fingers off, falls again, disembowels herself, and dies in Scuba's arms.
Can I just say that obviously the father was a cheap bastard? Because most power tools today, especially those bandsaws, the moment you touch them, you put your finger anywhere near them, they shut off. So the fact that she fell on it, it should have stopped.
Well, mine doesn't. So,
You're a cheap bastard.
well, there you go.
I'm kidding.
There you go. The police devise a plan to lure Carver out during the town's Thanksgiving parade. Disguised as a parade participant, Carver decapitates a mascot and causes mayhem, ultimately abducting Jessica, her stepmother Kathleen, Thomas, and Scuba. At his hideout, Carver gruesomely cooks Kathleen alive, serving her as a turkey at a macabre dinner table surrounded by corpses. Carver also live streams himself bludgeoning Evan to death. Jessica and Scuba manage to escape, and Carver chases Jessica into the storage building filled with parade materials. There, Jessica encounters Bobby in the Carver costume, but Sheriff Newton arrives. Urging her to leave, gunshots follow, but Bobby is not found. Later, Jessica notices debris from the wood on Newland's pants, matching what she saw earlier. Realizing he is the killer, Newland confesses his motive. After losing his wife, he began an affair with Amanda, who became pregnant. Amanda planned to leave her husband Mitch, but her death in the riot cost Newland both Amanda and their unborn child. Driven by grief and rage, Newland sought revenge on those he blamed for the riot. He even framed Bobby by forcing him into the Carver costume. Jessica secretly live streams Newland's confession, exposing him. Furious, Newland attacks her, but Bobby intervenes. In the final showdown, Jessica uses a musket loaded with her mother's bracelet to ignite a gas tank, causing an explosion to engulf Newland. Jessica reunites with Gabby and Scuba while Bobby is hospitalized. Authorities cannot locate Newland's body. In the film's closing moments, Jessica has a nightmare where she is attacked by a flaming Newland, hinting at his potential survival. Roll credits.
Serve the turkey.
Dinner is served. So they are...
Well, they said that the cops came up with the idea. I thought Jessica came up with the idea of making herself a target at the parade.
I can't remember, even though I just watched it. I think either way, both of them are on board. Jessica and the cops want to use the Thanksgiving Day parade as a decoy and see if they can't trap this guy. And the filmmakers do a good job at pointing out different John Carvers because of the costume. It's different people.
I also felt like it was way too obvious. They were trying to set up to make it look like Mitch is the killer.
Well, and Mitch was going to do something, and what he did was come out and protest because that's what his character has been doing, which made us think that he was the killer, but he's not. But when he comes out and does the protest, I went, oh, that makes sense. But this could be a diversion. And not on purpose diversion. I mean, the killer could use this to his advantage, which he does. What did you think of the bit where it's a clown?
I did not, see the clown coming. I did not realize. I was looking for a John Carver. I thought it would be another Carver. So I didn't see the clown. But once you look at the clown, that was a creepy ass looking clown for a freaking kids parade
on Thanksgiving.
And it looked like a clown from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Something like that. Yeah. He decapitates the fucking turkey mascot and he manages to sedate Jessica, her dad, Scuba, and the mom, stepmom.
One thing, and looking back, I didn't get it. I didn't catch it. But he used like a stun gun or a stun grenade or something like that, which should have been a clear hint. He's part of the police force. Where the hell would he get a stun grenade from?
I was thinking like military.
Yeah, and I thought,
but something, yeah,
something like that. That maybe I don't know why it just didn't click with me to think, okay, now let's rule out some more people.
Right. And so we cut to his lair, and this is the start of what I think is my favorite kill. Because
the cooking,
can you imagine?
Well, I like how he's so calmly basting her.
And that's what makes it so fucking twisted. And even worse is she wakes up, but she pretends to be asleep, which is smart. Yeah. And she almost gets out of there. But yeah, he's basting her and he puts the parsley in between her toes and all this, that, and the other. And I'm thinking, fuck, is he going to cook her? And then he turns around and they show that big pizza oven. And I went, yep, he's going to fucking cook her.
Have you ever seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show?
No.
There is a scene where a bunch of the characters are sitting around the table and they're eating like slabs of meat, like cooked meat. It's almost like a Christmas dinner kind of thing, celebration, where they're eating this meat. And then a tarp is pulled off the table to show the body inside where they cut the meat off and cook the meat. And so I thought maybe the killer's going to cook her and then have people eat the meat and then reveal later on you're eating her.
Oh no, the way they do it in this is way better.
I know, because when he does bring her out, well, first of all, I'm a big turkey skin fan. So I was salivating a little bit because that turkey skin looked good. But when he starts carving off pieces of her, I was like, okay, that's a little far.
Yeah. And so he finally manages to catch her. And along the way, Kathleen, the stepmom, looks in the fridge, and that's where we see the cheerleader. Mm-hmm. And it turns out she's still alive, which was a oh fuck moment.
For me, I feel like it's always in these slasher movies. There's someone who appears dead, and then they leap out to kind of give you that scare.
Oh, yeah. Usually it's the killer at the very end, but I hear what you're saying. But eventually Carver catches Kathleen and finishes what he started, and he fucking cooks her.
What'd you think of her being in that oven?
Oh, great practical effects.
Julie brought up the fact of, couldn't she have either hit or kicked the door open? Do ovens lock?
No, I don't think so, but that one might have.
Yeah.
So now we're at the dinner table, and we find out that Carver drugged Jessica, her dad, Evan, his girlfriend, I forget what her name is, Amy maybe, and Scuba. And they're all sitting around the table, and this is where they see the head of the security guard, and we find out what happened to the upper half of the waitress.
Yeah. That, and there was something earlier that happened really quick. There was that kind of guy, and I thought we weren't supposed to like this guy, but he ended up being kind of a good guy. It was the skeezy guy who was trying to sell guns at the high school.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was him too at first.
Well,
he was a suspect on my list.
I thought he was supposed to be one of our biggest red herrings that we're supposed to lead. And I thought he was just going to be an overall bad guy. But it ends up that, first of all, like the party and everything, he gives her a ring. Or no, later on, he gives her a ring at the parade. He says, "This is my father's good luck charm."
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, this ring's going to catch on something. I didn't click right away. Oh, he had a knife. There was a knife planted in the ring.
Neither did I until she started cutting out of her bonds.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, where the fuck she get that? And I went, oh, yeah, the dude. And it was the same dude who gave Scuba a gun and was just cool about it. Right.
Yeah.
So you're right. And so they're tied up. And this is where Carver reveals Kathleen is for dinner. And did you notice that? And this was the worst. This is probably the worst part of the movie for me. The dad, he sees it, but he has the gag in his mouth.
Oh, and he starts puking.
And he starts puking whilst having the gag in his mouth. That just so gross.
Yeah.
And
well, she just never looked that good. Tasty.
And so they take off the sheet, and it's her body without the head, which I thought was funny.
I thought, and again, I haven't seen Grindhouse, so I haven't seen the preview. But you said there was a guy in.
Oh yeah, and he is more. He looks more like a turkey.
I was to say the way her legs were up in the air felt like a turkey.
Yeah, exactly. But if you haven't seen the preview, look it up online. I'm sure it's out there.
Well, I want to watch the Grindhouse double feature.
Yeah,
and so he basically walks around, kind of talking to them, and
he's streaming everything. I mean, this is important,
and it's clever the way he did it. Is kind of like I don't know if it's like a Batman thing or whatever, but they go to one location to find out that he's filming with another camera to another location.
Yeah,
or the phone is filming a TV screen or a monitor, and
right. So pretty smart on his behalf.
Yeah,
right?
So he's got some thinking again, police strategy,
and he also corks the cheerleader, uncorks her, and he takes out the wine is her blood, and it was kind of an over-the-top scene.
Julie brought up again while we were watching the movie. She made it through the whole movie, by the way. That she had fallen on the trampoline and everything. And unless he repaired her wounds, would she even have any blood left? Wouldn't the blood have all flowed out of her?
Why are you trying to bring common sense to a horror movie?
I don't know.
Okay,
that was her suggestion.
There you go. And this is also where we get him beating Evan to death with that meat pounder.
Now, that meat pounder, from what I have read, that is supposed to be the Carver's iconic weapon. Like slashers usually have some kind of iconic weapon.
For sure.
Jason has a machete. Freddy has his glove. It's just what that was supposed to be, and I tried to look at closely and I didn't see it, is the meat tenderizer part on the top or whatever was supposed to be built from a waffle maker.
If I had to guess what the dude's trademark weapon is, it would have been a fucking axe.
Yeah.
Right? So anyways, he beats Evan to death, and Jessica manages to take off her bonds, cut through it, and she gives
Scuba the other one.
And she gives Scuba the ring so he can do it. So they get away, and as they're running out, Scuba tries to give Jessica a little bit more time.
She tries to fight the guy a little bit.
Right, but he gets an axe to the shoulder. He's going to end up living. Mm-hmm. And as Jessica's getting away, she gets stuck on the fence
with this bracelet that keeps coming up.
Right. And then John Carver swings the axe, misses her, gets away. And this is kind of where it was weird for me as well. She is running down the street, and there is a squad car, and the sheriff is on the ground with the trunk open, like he got attacked.
This little segment is one of the people call the biggest goof of the movie, which doesn't make sense.
Because Dempsey was just swinging an axe at her.
He was behind her.
Yeah, how did he get in front of her? So you heard it here now, folks, as you're listening to this. The second movie will be the second killer from the first movie.
Because exactly, he's behind her. Not only did he get ahead of her to that trunk, but he put back on his police uniform. He had that enough time and was able for this whole thing with Bobby to get out and escape.
Oh,
enough time.
The uniform doesn't bother me because that black thing could just be a jumpsuit and he could just rip it off and have his uniform underneath it and then put his jacket on.
Yeah.
The whole Bobby thing, though, I think is kind of wonky, but he does explain it. He says that little fucker woke up and got out of his trunk after he
and hit him with like
clean.
a tire iron.
With a tire iron, right. And so, but Jessica doesn't know this, and she rescues the cop, the sheriff, and they go back to his office and they start having a dialogue. And this is where Jessica looks down and sees that his shoes are all muddy and his pants from when she was being chased.
When they were running through the bushes, I noticed that there was those little like prickly things that
they made it a point to stop on that shot and show us what it was, and it's a callback. You're right. And then I thought to myself, no, is it that easy? Was it that in my face and we just missed it? And then I started with, there's no way he could have been at two places at the same time. But as the story progresses, it is in fact Patrick Dempsey is the killer. And as soon as they reveal it and he admits to it, I went, oh, he was in love with Gina Gerson and all of that bit. So that all came to fruition as well.
I know. It makes me actually want to go back and watch the movie one more time to see if there are hints. Like they showed that little flashback of him looking at her in a certain way. Mm-hmm. And he had said a line of, I told your stepmother that she'd make a great Thanksgiving dinner or something like that. And I wanted to go back and see, were there these little telltale signs throughout the movie?
I wouldn't mind watching this movie again. Yeah. So, and we'll talk about slasher films as a whole in a minute here, but yeah, Dempsey's the killer. And of course, Bobby is being framed, but he manages to team up with Jessica. And what'd you think of the whole ending bit, his whole demise?
Well, one of the things that bothered me is I thought when Jessica got trapped on the fence by her bracelet and the axe was swung, I thought it broke the bracelet. I thought that's what made her fall. So I thought the bracelet was gone. All of a sudden, it's perfectly back on her wrist again. So I thought it was just weird to me. So I just had to assume, okay, maybe the bracelet didn't break. But yeah, when they had mentioned earlier that she knew how to shoot a musket and she learned how to pack the gun with gunpowder, I'm like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And she's going to pack it. She's not going to have the bullets. Oh, and she's going to use the bracelet.
Do you know what it reminded me of?
Yeah.
It reminded me of Jaws. An air tank, a gun, and a big explosion.
Yeah, when she turned on the air tank, I kept thinking,
why is she filling the balloon?
Is it going to, what is that? Because I really did think she was going to shoot him at first, like shoot him in the face or something.
Oh, so did I.
With just, the gunpowder and all that. Because she said, firing the gunpowder in the beginning, like, wasn't it, like, did something to somebody or?
I don't know.
It burned or.
I thought she was going to shoot him in the chest or something, but I didn't know if that bracelet would have made it through his chest or it would have killed him. But when she shoots the air tank and blows him up, I thought, oh, Jaws.
The other thing I thought immediately was he could have lived through that. We don't know how bad that explosion was. It might have burned him a little bit, but not going to kill him.
But as it turns out, they didn't find the fucking body anyway.
No, and they imply very heavily he left as one of the firefighters with them wearing the mask.
Yep. They do imply that as well. What did you think of this ending bit where she has the dream? Did it remind you of anything?
Almost every slasher movie.
Yeah, but it specifically reminded me of the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, where the mom is looking in the mirror and then Freddy comes through the mirror and drags her out, kind of like the original. Mm-hmm. But that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, you fuckers are just taken from Wes Craven.
It reminded me of so many movies. I can't think of one off the top of my head where the person the next day isn't in bed with who she thinks is her lover, and then they roll over and they see it's the killer. And it's just a bunch of dream sequences like that.
Yeah, it's just a dream sequence.
Yeah. So that doesn't tell us if they're really alive or dead. But I do think, at least, Eli, if you're listening, you can explain all of this by the next movie, there being a second person. Patrick Dempsey could be dead. We don't need him back. The second person takes it over to avenge Patrick Dempsey now.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And that was Thanksgiving.
There are some criteria, I think, for what makes a good classic slasher type horror movie.
What you think or what the internet thinks?
A little of the both.
Okay.
I kind of ran it through an AI and I said, analyze all the slasher movies on there and what are the requirements to make an iconic slasher movie if I was going to make one. The ones that it came up was has to have a memorable killer. Does
Okay.
that check mark on Thanksgiving? Would you say the Carver is a memorable killer?
Sure.
It has to have creative and gory kills.
Yes.
It has to have a likable or unlikely final girl.
Yes.
It has to have a campy tone and self-awareness.
Yeah, I think it does because of the whole consumerism thing.
Yeah, because it has to embrace the fun campiness of its movie. That's what it means by self-awareness. It knows it's a campy film. And I think it does.
But all slasher movies aren't campy. But go on.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, even in Scream, we have what's his name that is telling us the rules of Scream, and I feel like that's a little bit campy.
That's not campy. That's just humor.
It's kind of,
In my opinion.
yeah. It has to have an iconic soundtrack.
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think that, and this is criteria for it to be a good slasher movie.
To become possibly down the road a classic, iconic slasher.
Oh, by soundtrack, I'm sure they mean theme. But
Yeah.
okay.
Well, like
this one didn't have a theme.
This
but go on.
one was supposed to be dedicated to the 80s style slasher movie. They had an 80s soundtrack. They had a lot of 80s pop songs in it.
They had some needle drops, yes.
Yeah, so that's what they were going for with that. And then honorable mention was that it had to have some kind of secluded or iconic setting that, led to don't go there moments. Like don't go in that house, don't go in this location, don't do that.
I mean, I don't think that they pointed anything specifically out in this movie, but I don't think that should be held against it in this instance. So is your question that did it hit these requirements in order to be a good slasher movie?
Would you say it hit all of those requirements?
No, I just said it didn't hit the location. Other than that, I think it hit all of them.
Did you notice in this movie, besides the waitress, most people didn't go off alone in this movie? Nobody was really alone. They were with somebody a lot of times when the Carver got them.
Outside of the security guard and the waitress, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think he was hunting couples as well, so that might have had something to do with it. Overall, I think this does meet the criteria of a slasher movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen worse movies and I've seen better movies, and yeah, I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable.
I think if this movie builds on the storyline and actually evolves and they have even more than 2 sequels, I could see it becoming sort of a classic, iconic movie. Won't be on my top 10, but I could see it, reaching that level with some people.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe even they build on the campiness of it just being a Thanksgiving holiday thing.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. I mean, so. All right, what do you think? You ready to rate this flick?
Absolutely. I've got my carving knife sharpened and I'm ready to slice into this feast of camp. Let's baste this bird and gobble up this glorious disaster.
Oh, right. I was waiting for somebody to say gobble.
Hey, Don, how do we do our ratings?
Well, where the fuck is the professor?
He hasn't come back yet. You want me to go look for him?
No. He said he'd be right back.
Yeah, he said he'd be right back, but I can go check, out in that cemetery out back.
All right. Would you mind? Would you go take a look for him?
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay. We do our ratings on a scale from 1 to 5 fucks. 5 fucks being cinematic gold. A 1 fuck movie would be a movie where you look at your buddy after it's over and say, dude, what the fuck was that?
So what's a 0?
A 0 movie is when you're done watching it and you look at your buddy and you say, oh, for shit's sake, what the fuck was that? I want 1 hour and 46 minutes of my life back.
So in other words,
we just don't give
a fuck.
All right. You or me there, guy.
You know what? I think I will go first.
All right.
But before I do,
let's say you were going to give this slasher 3 fucks.
3 fucks. Is that your final answer?
Final answer.
You're going to take a stab at it there?
Should I? Should I change my answer?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know? 3.25 fucks.
3.25. Okay. Anyone who knows me knows I like a good slasher film. The fact that this movie calls out 80s style slasher films makes it even more fun. The performances from the actors was, well, so-so in my opinion. The inventive kills and the 80s inspired soundtrack almost redeems everything for me. For me, it's the lack of genuine suspense that undercuts the tension and the killer's comical costume that borders on laughable. Also, the build-up to a rushed, disappointing ending pretty much killed it for me. I finished this movie thinking it could have been so much more. It was that dinner scene at the end that they had built up to so hard, and then it was over so quick, and most of them got out. Only a couple of them really died in that dinner scene. So that really bothered me. So for me, it's for those reasons I'm giving Thanksgiving a rating of 2.5 fucks out of 5. Gobble, gobble.
Really? 2.5 fucks?
Yeah, it just... I like a lot of other slasher movies above it, and it was a so-so slasher movie to me. That's why I'm going right down the middle.
Oh, well, there you go. 2.5 fucks from the comic book guy. I am going to give Thanksgiving 3 solid fucks because it was better than I thought it was going to be. I liked the characters. I liked the way it looked. I liked the kills. I appreciated the amount of gore we got. It wasn't too much. It wasn't too little. Sure, the killer has been done 1,000 times and it was kind of predictable, but overall I had fun, and that's what I look for in a good slasher movie, is to have fun. Are there better films than it? Yes. Is it better than some slasher films? Absolutely. So for me, I'm coming in at 3 fucks. So with my 3 fucks and John's 2.5 fucks, that gives Thanksgiving an average of 2.75 fucks, which now puts it in the 28th spot, tied with Team America, World Police, and The Black Swan. It is slightly better than The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Scrooged, and Atonement. And it is slightly worse than Solo, A Star Wars Story, Tommy Boy, The Last Dragon, and The Never Ending Story. That seems about right to me.
Yeah.
We know that the professor probably would have given this a big fat 0.
I was thinking he might have given it a 1.
Oh, maybe. He does like Patrick Dempsey, I think.
Yeah. But not his cup of tea.
Not at all. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this special episode of 3 Guys in a Flick. If you would like to know which movie we are going to be reviewing next, please check out the website. And speaking of which, hey, John, where can they find us?
I'll take a slice at that. They can find us at our website, 3guysinaflick.com, where we go ahead and post all of our podcasts, our show notes, anything else we feel like. There's also a form on there where you could take a stab at submitting a movie to the Bronco helmet that you would like us to review next. You can also find us at all of social media, as well as any place that hosts podcasts. And while you're listening to us, go ahead and, slice away, give us a good rating, subscribe, and leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you.
All right. I just want to thank anyone who listens and who has suggested a movie. If you keep listening, we'll keep recording. For 2 Guys in a Flick, I'm Don.
I'm John.
Thanks for listening. Where the fuck is Ken?
I know, he should have been back by now.
Motherfucker.
3 guys with some mics, yeah, dart into the flicks. We're here for the real talk, no time for the tricks. Don as the captain, steering us right. Kid drops now is shedding light. John with the comics, bringing the hype. From the good, the bad, to the absurd, we break it down, make sure you heard. Passion for the screen, we ride or die about movies. You know we always give a fuck, no lie.
Sorry, Jessica. This year, there will be no leftovers.
I almost expect you to put in a Freddy laugh there.
I would ask the question after I said, John, give me a waffle maker. And oh, by the way, why am I fucking explaining it to you again?
It's the creative porn. It's the creative.
All right.
The person was already dead. It's the carving the leg.
That was so good. I didn't think they were going to do it.
Yeah.
But they did it.
And did that make you hungry?
And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Jason just edges out Freddy.
Yeah.
Which is not a porn I want to see.
By tranquilizing him. And then, you're right, he starts swinging that ass.
I liked it better when you said swing that ass.
Yes, I did. What did you guys think? Or you guys? He decapitates.
It's the lack of genuine suspense that undercuts.
Did you just say undercunts?
I kind of did. For me. But favorite slasher movie.
It's going to be Nightmare on Elm Street.
Which one?
Come on, dude. 4, 2 guys in a flick. I'm done.
I'm John.
Oh, yeah. All right, what do you got?
I have...
All right, let me give you my first one.
Okay, like I said, you may have the same one.
Cocksgiving.
Oh, that's not bad.
Thank you.
I'll give you all three of them. Thanks Gulping.
Oh, that's a good one.
I had Thanksgiving Head.
That's even better.
And Thanksgiving a Handy.
That's good. That's good. And yeah, I had that one and Slutsgiving.
Slutsgiving is good.
Yeah, and head giving. So a lot of giving this season.
It's a giving season.
It is the giving season. Giving season. All right. May all of your days and nights be filled with happiness. All right. Fuck up. Good night.
Catch the vibe as 3 guys in a flick, keep the passion alive. Fuck that.